Hi, I'm Jamie, and today I'm going to be planting out some of my autumn brassicas. Here in New Zealand, we're probably most of the way through autumn, and it might be a little bit late for me to do this. I haven't really gardened through a hard frost. The area where we're at now does get a lot of frost, so it's going to be a bit of a learning experience, but I figure there's no harm in trying. And if it doesn't work out, then at least I've learned something. But if it does, then I'll hopefully get some food. So today I'm planting out some red mini cabbages and some racer drumhead cabbages, which don't look very good. Honestly, they're quite sad. They've been in there for way too long, but it took me a while to get the tomatoes out of this area. Now, a problem that I have a lot of the time is I place my plants way too close together. So you can see my garden's exceptionally full. And I just don't think that that's a good idea with cabbages. So I'm being very responsible, and I actually have the seed packets here. So I'm looking at the spacing. So like for the red minis, it says 40 centimeters apart. And for the racer drum heads, it's also 40 centimeters. I would have thought that these would be further apart because I think they're bigger, but they might not be. I've never grown them before, so we're gonna find out. And then along the back, so like along the wall, I'm gonna be planting some broad beans because they look delicious and they're frost hardy as well. Here's my little veggie patch helpers. Hi, cutie. This is Misty. She's adorable. And that's her mum, Luna. Also adorable. I mean, come on, guys. Just look at these ears. They're so fluffy. So fluffy. Okay, I got you, girl. Oh, yeah. Ooh, we're getting our scratch on. Oh, yeah. We're getting it. Getting it good. It's quite funny, this tape is electric, and when I was harvesting in there the other day, I bent over nice and neatly, boop, and fully electrocuted my own butt. Felt really bad, but it was hilarious. I laughed about it for a while, and it's not very strong, like it's not super strong. These are only tiny ponies. So I did put cardboard down in here. We have heaps and heaps and heaps of weeds. I'm going to try and repress them as much as I can, but I'm not really sure exactly the best way to do that. I tried to do it with wood chips, like a thick layer of wood chips in one of our other beds, and they just came back through it. It was quite impressive. They're very tenacious. In these videos that I'm doing, you're going to see that I co-garden with weeds. I'm not super pedantic about it. One thing that I've learned is that if you have bare earth, nature is going to try and cover it. So you're best to cover it with your own crops and put in like stuff like radishes or creeping flowers. I really like as well, like a ground cover of flowers that will help feed the bees and cover your earth, even if they're not feeding you. It's pretty and it's just really cool. So one thing that we also struggle with is whitefly. I don't know if you can see that. It's probably focusing on my face. But I'm not squeamish. All I do is just come in and squish them. I just squish them over and over. Squish them lots and that's fine. These were left in their 6 cells for way too long, and some of the leaves are obviously really unhealthy. I'm just gonna take those leaves off, sprinkle them. It's just adding nutrition back to the soil, right? Those probably didn't have that much nutrition in them to begin with, but oh well. In order to maximize my space, I'm going to be doing it in like a zigzag pattern, because that way you can fit much more in. I found a worm. Sorry, bro. But I think because it will be pretty, I'm gonna do like a row of racer drum heads along, and then 40 from each of those, like on the middle of the zig. I'm gonna do my red mini cabbages, and it will just look really nice when they're done. And then in between each of these, so like if you think about it like a diamond shape, there's gonna be a broad bean along the back. So yeah, I'm gonna get into it and I'll show you when I'm done. Okay, so these cabbages have filled up the space perfectly. Like my OCD is just so incredibly satisfied by the spacing. It's amazing. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 racer drum heads sort of down that side, and then 4 mini reds in the middle, and then I've just gone along and put broad bead scenes kind of pretty far up against the wall down that side, and then also along the back behind the camera there. But what I am gonna do is go grab one of my favorite flowers out of another spot of the veggie patch where I sowed them way too thickly, because I always forget that gardening here is like veggies on steroids because we have the horses, and this ground is just years and years and years and years of exceptionally good compost, and so everything that we grow just gets way bigger than I would ever expect. And so I'm using a lot of self-control today and spacing out my plants. Here's an example of veggies on steroids. It's a capsicum, and it's got a bunch of fruit on it. Not quite ripe yet. This is up to my waist, and yes, I'm 5'2", but it's still a big capsicum. Okay, Teddy, we're gonna go find some calendula. Yeah? Where's the calendula? Where's the calendula? He's like, what does that mean? Okay, so here's a mini impromptu garden tour. There's the shade house with our little cabbages in, and yes, there's a lot of tomato debris and still some weeds, but I'm pretty chilled out about that. I don't really care. There's the dog, Teddy. His name is Teddy. In that bed there, we've got some celery, some New Zealand spinach, we got Swedes at the back, we've got a boysenberry and some peas. Here are all our sweet potato, our kumara, and there was an extremely random begonia that popped up in there. I don't know why, I don't understand. In that patch there was actually strawberry popcorn that my daughter chose, and we had a big stand of that, so that's inside and curing. But there are, this is a cornflower that's kind of gone down. There's Cape gooseberries, and then in this patch there's broad beans, cauliflower, and radishes. Behind me here is lettuces and greens, brassicas and beans. And I'm actually gonna do a tour on this bed soon because there's some really cool techniques that I used that just astounded me with how they worked out and how well everything did. And then we've got some bathtubs here with different items in it. I'll do a bathtub tour, which should get a lot of click-throughs. Anyway, here's the rhubarb doing its thing. Ooh, here's some marigolds and alyssum. I don't know how to say that, but these are just from in my courtyard, and this is oxalis, which brings rust in, which I do not like, but these were from marigolds in my courtyard. And you just take a dry seed head and you just go crumble, crumble, crumble wherever you want them, and they just come up beautiful and strong and happy and smelling gorgeous. Kohlrabi, which I've never tasted, but a lot of people really love the taste of it. So I'm excited to try that. There's some little baby lettuces in here. But talking about my weed problem, do you see this? That's weeds. Oh, it's crazy. Anyway, here's the calendula and the kale as well. So these are a lot of plants that I planted in a grid, and they're just going to be competing hard. So I'm going to remove some of the more cramped ones and put them in there with my brassicas. So when I came out of the house, like 15 minutes ago, I was like, oh my word, this is freezing out here. It was literally so cold, and now I am sweating. So thank you, gardening, for being some of the most exercise that I ever get. Right, Teddy, come. This is the guard dog with schizophrenia. Hi. He says he'll protect us from his ghost. Where's the ghost? Like, there's literally no one here. There's no one around. You're just insane. There's a pony right there. Can you see her? Oh, they're so adorable. I just can't get over it. Okay, so here are these plants, which I grew from seed, and I'm really excited about the calendula because they're really good for skincare. So I have really sensitive dry skin, and I've noticed a lot of this in skincare products. And so I'm really looking forward to harvesting these and making like a salve for my own skincare. And I think that's really cool as well, because I know exactly what has been done to these plants, which is nothing. I don't use any chemicals. If there's pests, I kind of just let them fend for themselves, and I think that ecologically pests will sort themselves out. Like I had a bunch of aphids in my courtyard garden, and I was like, what am I gonna do about it? Like, should I do anything? Decided not to do anything, and then the next thing I noticed, I've got a bunch of praying mantises and like ladybirds and lacewings, and they all just came in and helped me out. So I don't have many aphids anymore. There's so many ants on this property, like so many ants. Don't know why. But obviously they bring aphids too, so. Oh look, speaking of pests. I don't really know what to do in cases like this, because chuck it away, it can go do its thing somewhere else. I really hope that you can hear the pony chewing right outside this gate, because she's so cute. Hello, little face. This plant looks real sad. Look at it. It's got a bunch of holes in it, and the leaves are like, oh. So it was one of the ones that was like really cramped in that other bed. I've just grabbed the cramped ones out. But yeah, just do a bit of a clean up. Plants are incredibly resilient. And I saw a really good example of that when I first moved into this house, and my dog would jump out of the window and go into my courtyard garden, and he would lay in all my plants. Like, he would just hang out in them, or maybe he was like chasing flies or barking at someone or whatever. But I would come home and my plants would be completely flattened. And I was like so disappointed because I spent so long on all these plants, and all I did was kind of prop them back up, and even with a completely broken stem, a lot of those plants came back and produced really well. And sometimes when a plant goes through stress, it will actually get heaps stronger. So you know, if it's had a pest issue or a watering issue or something like that, like obviously it's not ideal, but the plant tends to be like, we need to be stronger, like fight, fight, fight. And they do. That's what nature does, you know, like if it's got adversity, it just becomes better. And that's a life lesson. Sometimes if a big fat dog sits on you and breaks your stem, just gotta lay there for a while until you feel strong enough to stand back up. So these two are in. I don't really know. Gotta put some in between the capsicum. Fun. This is so fun because previously to this, when the tomato jungle was in here, you couldn't even move in this space. Like you literally could not move. Boop. And so it's just fun to be in here, you know? Planting new things. That's another really fun part of gardening is most of these things are not forever. So if you plant a tomato jungle that gets crazy out of control, it doesn't matter because it's going to come out in a season. One way that I like to keep my plants healthy is by just like anything that doesn't look good just comes off, because the plant will be putting energy into trying fixing those things. And so then if you take away the damage, the plant can put energy into putting out new growth, which will be healthy. It's kind of a no-brainer, right? Okay, I'm done. That was easy. I just love planting stuff. It just makes me so happy to be working in the soil and putting in these tiny plants, you know, these sweet little things that I've grown from seed, and they're going to create these massive cabbages. It just brings me a lot of joy to put them in, and then all you have to do is water them and you get food. It's just so cool. Okay, so here's the tour of the shade house. Calendula. Oh, I've got to show you this. Look at all these flowers. Oh my goodness! And I really hope it has time to do some stuff before it frosts, because we're getting into pretty late autumn now. I don't actually know when it frosts here. Like I said, this is my first year gardening in this space, actually in the ground. I've only ever gardened in containers before, so really happy to have all this space. Okay, so calendula, capsicum, capsicum, calendula, capsicum, calendula, capsicum, 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 and then I've done, I think, 2 broad beans there. I probably should have counted the seeds, but it doesn't matter. If they come up, they come up, and I'll be like, yes, and if they don't, then I'll be like, I'll put something else in that spot. So broad bean seeds along there and along the back, and then we've got the cabbages. Boop. And then 2 more calendula right there. And I have left the middle part to be a walkway, but I'm feeling nervous about the weeds. You can see I've just dropped the leaves that I was taking off the calendula. Like, that'll just break down back into the soil. Doesn't look fab, but it's all good. Hey, pretty girl. So yeah, I don't really know what to do about the weeds. I might actually just chop up some of this cardboard into like little pieces and just stick it in around where I've planted, because until these guys get bigger, the soil is just begging to be covered by whatever. And the weeds here, I mean, they're all in the ground anyway, like you can still see them all. Like I haven't done a good job of cleaning them out, but like honestly, I just don't care. I just don't care enough about the weeds to be pulling out every single one, because they're so tenacious anyway. Like I could spend a whole day in here and get it absolutely clear of everything, and they would come back anyway. So I've got to figure out a different solution. And I think covering the ground with cardboard is great, because it will kill whatever's under it, but also keep the moisture in for the plants that are in here. So I might get stuck into that, to be honest. I think that's a good idea to try. A good idea to try. I fully just sat down on the ground thinking in my head, like, I don't care, you know, if the ground is dirty, and I don't, but the ground is wet. The ground is wet, and now I have a wet butt. But that's okay, because we can't go back now. We might as well just accept it. So I initially started ripping up this cardboard as a job, as a chore to look after my soil. What I didn't realize is how much fun it is to just get into it and shred it up. Like, it's really speaking to my soul right now, and I'm having a lot of fun. Okay, so as I'm laying out this ooh, that's bright. As I'm laying out this cardboard, I'm already realizing a bunch of things that are potentially going to be problems. Like, what's to stop it from moving? Like, what's to stop it moving around? And this is my tiny little seedling. Like, what's to stop this moving and getting squished? So that's a problem that I've got to think about. I think maybe once I wet it down, it'll stick to the ground a lot better, and like certainly once it starts to break down, it'll stick to the ground better. But I'm a little bit concerned, and so I'm going to be keeping a pretty close eye on the movement of the cardboard, because I don't want it to take out any of my plants that I planted today. Like, what would the point of that be? But okay, I'm not going to lie to you guys, this looks pretty terrible. But I think that its benefits will outweigh what it looks like. Or even if I can, like, at least sort of just suppress the weeds until I come up with a better idea, or like a better looking idea. And I really, honestly, truly believe this will be better for the soil health too, because it's like a, you know, it's a mulch, really. And so it will help to retain moisture and keep the moisture levels really balanced, which is important. And yeah, maybe once these cabbages get a bit bigger, I'll be able to take some of the cardboard off, so that, because the weeds won't be able to get to the soil. But for now, I think this is a pretty ugly but good solution. So I didn't have quite enough cardboard, like for these spots here, but that's okay. I'll get some more. I really need a plant right there. I need a plant. I'm gonna go find a plant. Okay, please excuse my perennial, which is dying off for the winter and will hopefully come back because it's so pretty. But this guy, so cool. And this is a flowering, creeping ground cover, just like I mentioned before. So this was the mother plant. This is all just one plant right here. The mother plant, and then this one was a cutting that I took. And like, I'm sad, I don't want to take it out of my courtyard, but I also think that this cutting, this one in that spot in the shade tunnel, oh my goodness, it will be beautiful. Oh, and something else I wanted to mention, don't look at the grass, but I planted my berries and my passion fruit in horse feed bags at the beginning of the season, because that was what I had, and I do everything on a budget. But there has been some problems with it, so I'm going to be doing another video about my experience with those. So, you're coming with me.
It's pretty decent roots for a cutting that I only took about 6 weeks ago. She's strong. Look, she's so pretty, but she's so strong. Oh, these are borage. 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 We should try and make it sound more fancy, guys. Borage. It's a fabulous plant. It doesn't deserve the name borage. All right, there she is in her final home. Oh, I just can't get over these flowers. This is called an apple blossom, the common name. I can't remember the scientific name right now, because who remembers the scientific name of the random plants that they got? So anyway, hopefully that kind of covers this whole area. Probably will be competing with these guys for its life, and nothing is as strong as oxalis, which grows from these bulbs in the soil. And so every time that you dig it up, if you break one of these, it's going to grow like 400 new plants. So it's a never-ending battle, but that's okay. So this is another super fun project done, and thank you for watching. I really enjoy sharing this with you, and I know that it will be really cool to watch these videos back and see how the space has transformed over the seasons. So yeah, looking forward to that as well.